What's up, Breanna? I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I've been waiting for us. I know, when we met, I was really looking forward to us having this interview and this conversation together. So I think it's going to be amazing for everyone.
I'm excited.
All right, so let's just get right into the meat and potatoes. People have, if they're listening all the way through, they've heard your intro and the amazing, service that you offer to adolescent girls and young women and kind of parents, but more as a byproduct. And so I'd love to, there's a couple of questions that you said you wanted to talk about, and I actually think they're perfect. So
Great.
I'd love to first talk about what you said about parents being taught to believe something specifically about their daughter's mental health. Like, can you dive into that a little bit and what you mean by that?
Yeah, I believe that as a society as a whole, we're led to believe that we don't really have power over our mental health. And so there's only so much we can do. So we've got to get the meds, we've got to, do traditional therapy. But other than that, it's like a lot of girls and young women, well, people, not just girls and young women, like a lot of people are just feeling helpless and hopeless, like victim to their circumstances, their genes, their genetics, their DNA, and kind of like, okay, I got depression. Okay. Or I've got anxiety, or I've got whatever it is. I got a chemical imbalance. I'm mentally ill. And that's the story and the label and the diagnosis that they hold on to and continue through life. And in, what I do with teen girls and young women, I just see a lot of girls have been through the mental health system for so many years and have not gotten any better. They've gotten worse because we're band-aiding the actual issue instead of actually healing the hurt, healing the pain, healing the past trauma, and mix that in with self-love. That's not in there in the mental health system. So, but a lot of parents are like, well, and parents have the best of intentions. They're doing what they need to do or what they think they need to do to help their daughters who are struggling. But I think the more time that these parents are going through the system, they're realizing that the mental health system isn't the end all be all to help their daughters really heal their mental health, heal her mental health.
I hope they're realizing.
I hope so. And you have, I know, look, I heard about Andrea because I listened to your first podcast episode. And if anyone hasn't listened to it, like Andrea, you talk about your whole story. And I was listening to that and I was like, oh, you've been through the trenches. Like,
I would have been your ideal client.
Exactly. You went through all of it.
Yeah.
So you know it firsthand.
It's interesting to me because what you said about it's like people are doomed. They think that they don't have any control over their mental health.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about that a lot lately as well, because people also think they don't have control over, let's say, if they have high blood pressure or diabetes, right? They go in and they're diagnosed with diabetes or whatever it is. And they think, okay, well, that's it for me. I have diabetes. I'll just take this medication. And I just wonder where that comes from. I wonder if that's because the way that doctors and psychiatrists and the research, the third party and the peer reviewed research has been positioned as this like end all be all truth. Like, what do you, that's what my perspective is. What do you think?
Yes, exactly. It is positioned as that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I have so much to say about this. I don't know.
Yeah, let's do it. Listen,
well,
this is what this podcast is for.
I got 5 hours of stuff that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I want to actually I'd love to give you an example of what a 14-year-old said in my group coaching session yesterday. So I asked my girls this question: when do you know that you are worthy and enough? Like, when do you reach that pinnacle of like, I have reached it, I'm whole, I'm worthy, I am enough just as I am? So I got a lot of different answers on that one from these girls, right? A few of the girls said never. They will never feel like they are worthy and enough. And then some other girls said, one girl said, well, when I get that relationship. A lot of girls said, when I get that ideal weight, when I look the way I want to look, when I write, all to do with appearance, because so many girls are basing their worth and their value on a number on a scale or how they look or whatever, right? And I I had many different conversations with a lot of girls yesterday about this topic, but one of the girls, a 14-year-old, was saying that years ago when she was 7 or 8 years old, she had a bunch of kids that said she was weird, said she was creepy, and they basically just hated her. And she's 14 now, and she's been carrying this hurt for all of these years, and she still hasn't been able to heal from it. And it's what they said to her all the way back as a 7-year-old sticks with her and has created this story inside of her head that I'm worthless, I'm damaged, I'm no good, but people hate me. And she goes back to, but people hate me. I had another girl, I think a year older, said something similar, but girls hate me. So it's like, they want people to like them before they like themselves. And I'm like, we're going to do the opposite. You like you first. You love you first. And whatever people think or say or whatever, it doesn't matter, but it starts from within. And these girls are going, saying to themselves, it starts with like out there, right? Whether I'm liked, whether people like me, whether I have friends or not. And they're basing their worth and their value on outside of them, but that's not where worth and value comes from. And talking about mental health, this has everything to do with mental health. Self-love is not being talked about in the mental health system. It's almost like it's a nice to have. Sure, it'd be nice, for my daughter to have that. No, it's not a nice to have. This is essential for your daughter to heal from her mental health. She has got to learn how to love herself and combine that in the presence of healing, self-love, compassion, like all the things. But this is what these girls need. Yeah. But so many of these girls are medicated, and it's like, but where's the origin? Where's the source of this depression? And it's like, we just got to one place at 7 years old when these girls said this to you and you've taken it in, and okay, so you've been miserable ever since. Okay, let's medicate that. Let's medicate that instead of healing that.
Right.
I don't get it.
That's what I was thinking actually when
Where does it make sense? Sorry.
Telling her story, I'm like, if she's medicated, that doesn't fix the core. That doesn't fix the core wound, and I don't even know if it's made her feel any better, right? So
I can't remember if this particular girl is medicated for. I know she's medicated
at some point.
Yes, but I'm just on a whole, how many of these girls are being medicated, and parents are made to feel that they are bad mothers if they don't medicate their kids because they don't know how to feel their emotions. Medication is not going to help them to feel their emotions. It's just going to numb and suppress even more.
Totally.
And I feel like this is where it gets a little bit confused, or it can get confusing for some parents, because a lot of parents are putting their kids and their daughters through talk therapy. Obviously, they're not sitting in there in talk therapy with their daughters. And so they think like, well, surely they're getting the healing. Surely like they're doing whatever needs to be done because she's in therapy. But as the months go into years and these girls are not getting better, they're getting worse. I feel like parents are waking up to what is there actual like real healing happening here?
Yeah.
The answer, I mean, I can't speak for every single situation and circumstance, but talk therapy isn't and I know you're a past therapist. Yeah. So you can speak about this too, but talk therapy isn't enough. And a lot of these girls feel validated when they go to therapy, which is a wonderful thing to feel validated for your experiences and your feelings. But does it stop with validation? Is there forward momentum or movement? Like, who do you want to be? How do you want to live your life? How do you want to feel?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think talk therapy for the most part is actually bullshit.
I love that you say that.
And I was a talk therapist, but I also wasn't a talk therapist. Like I did DBT. But we would definitely talk about themes and things that parents could learn, skills that they can gain, and perspectives and understanding and all of that to help with at least that piece of all of it. But I agree with you, like you can only talk so much about something if you don't heal something, if you don't gain new skills around it, because these types of things are going to come up in life, right? If you don't have a strong sense of self, you don't have the skills for how to handle these types of interactions in the world. That's all going to be very problematic. It's just going to perpetuate whatever it is: depression, self-loathing, hatred. It just compounds on that core wound.
Right.
So I agree. I think talk therapy can be helpful depending on the reason. Like I definitely think for people in transition, like I've gone to therapy when I've been in transition in my life just to have somebody to bounce things off of.
Mhm.
But I haven't been to talk therapy in probably a decade.
Yeah.
I won't do it.
All the work that I have done for 15 years has been with coaches. I've had phenomenal coaches.
I have done work with therapists. I've been to EMDR. I've had like rewiring stuff. And then I've, yeah, worked with some coaches or, well, I don't know if they'd be considered a coach, but like somatic practitioners, things
Yeah.
like that, different, like things that aren't covered by insurance. Let's just say that.
Yeah. The stuff that actually works.
Pretty much. So those are, I mean, that's what I do. And my daughter, I mean, we did a little bit of talk therapy for her and her dad, because also that's all he would ever be cool with
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
But with my daughter, it's do somatic work. We do like emotional melting. We do, and she brought something up from when she was like 5.
Yeah.
It was really interesting, all on her own. We were like at a family, we go to our like person who does all sorts of body work and emotional melting and all sorts of stuff. And he asked her a question, and then she said, when I was like 5 years old, I had a really short pixie cut, and this boy told me I was a boy, and nobody wanted to play with me, and I felt really horrible about myself.
Mhm.
It's really interesting. She's carried that with her, right? And so that's a great example of what you're saying. It's like we carry these moments in time with us, and then other experiences just reconfirm over and
Yes.
over and over again until we can neutralize the first thing.
Yes. And such a big one of the things I do with my girls and young women is like reframing the past
Yeah.
and creating new meaning from what has happened to them, right? That example that you gave of the 5-year-old, like what's a new empowered meaning that she could give to that situation, or something else that happens. It's reframing the meaning and the narrative that these girls have given to these past circumstances, because this is keeping them in the hole of their depression and anxiety, and for a lot of girls just not wanting to even be alive because of the story that they have that's running in their head. Self-harm, suicidal thinking is rampant. So many girls are trying to kill themselves every single day, and parents are at a loss. They send their kids to psych wards. They send their daughters to therapy, medication, you name it. They're doing all of the things, and then they're okay, but I don't get it. Like, why is none of this working?
Because it doesn't work, BW.
Yes, I listen.
Right? Like I've been inpatient twice when I was a teenager.
Yeah, and I
You
loved your
literally
vulnerability.
sit there for until you're stable,
Yes.
which I don't even know how they decide you're stable, because anybody can pretend for like a week or follow the rules. Like it's really just you follow the rules, you don't have any outbursts, you don't, I don't know. And
It's
then
sad because
go home. Like
I've had so many girls who have done inpatient, and I've heard horrific stories that I'm not even going to repeat right now, but like the worst of the worst of the worst stories of what has happened to them in inpatient and the trauma that was created on top of the trauma that they were already.
it's traumatic. And I
Yes.
didn't even have like a bad stay necessarily, but
Yeah.
it's traumatic. Like waking, especially if you overdose, like especially if you're in a haze and then you wake up in a bed
Mhm.
that's not yours.
Yes.
That's happened to me once because I overdosed on Ambien, and I woke up and I'm like, this is not my room. This isn't the hospital. Like, where am I? My parents weren't anywhere. My mom wasn't. I mean, it's just strangers are telling you attempted suicide and now you're here. And you're just kind of, okay, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Just that it's in itself is terrifying. Not, and that doesn't even account for if you're mistreated,
Yes.
if
Absolutely.
you know what I mean, any of that. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It
have a
makes you feel, well, it's interesting because it makes you feel like nobody, well, this is how I felt. Like nobody really wants to help me. None of this is helping me. Like I was aware enough, and I don't know if all girls that age are, but I knew none of this is helping me. This just makes it worse. This is stupid.
You know what? A lot of girls know that. They're not idiots. They know that. They know that this is not helping me. Okay, mom's making me go to therapy. I'm going to do it. Mom's I got to go to inpatient. I'm going to do it. And it's not working. Okay, but I have to do what they're telling
Yeah,
me to
you kind of
do.
feel like you just have to do it because what's the alternative, right?
Right. Another like missing piece is really, one of the things I do with my girls and young women is really helping them understand, okay, like where do your thoughts come from? And can you actually detach from your thoughts? Do you need to believe everything that you think? Now, this by itself is not going to work unless the healing and self-love is a part of it, right? But the thing that I teach my clients is like, okay, you're either in your I'm going to use this. I like visuals. It's either like you're in your ego or you're in your heart. And girls don't know how to get into their heart. They're like, my heart? Yes, unconditional love, self compassion, self forgiveness, self acceptance. They're like, no, but I got to be in here. This is, the ego. And it's like, okay, your ego is the part of your brain that lies to you. It is creating all of these lies, all of these stories, all of this disempowered thinking. That's the place that tells you that you should die, that you're a horrible human being, that you're not worthy, that you're not enough, that nobody's ever going to love you. And these girls feel crazy in here because they haven't learned how to get into their heart space. And, you know, they don't know this whole place of like being compassionate with themselves. That's like, what? They're just like, they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to
Most people
accept
don't
them.
though. Like
Most people
I
don't.
will self-compassion is a part of DBT.
Mhm.
That's something I learned as a therapist through getting certified in DBT. No
Yeah.
joke. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I had a light bulb. I'm like, wow, I am really harsh on myself. I have no self compassion. Like, and I started practicing it. It changed my life. And
Yes.
I would see many different types of people, but I would also see women, and I teach them the same thing. It's like it's a skill that we don't
Yes.
learn. And
Yes.
if you don't receive it a lot from parents either, it's right. And most parents don't have that skill.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can we talk about emotions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, like this is also another big one because so many girls and young women don't know how to feel. So it's like, okay, let's medicate sad, let's medicate anger, let's medicate. It's like, okay, because it's bad to feel this. What I teach my clients is like, there's no emotion that's bad. There's no emotion that's wrong. It's like you're judging your sadness. Well, that's called depression when you judge it. But it's like, you don't have to judge your emotions anymore. You don't have to suppress them. Let's actually teach you how to start feeling, knowing that you're
Yeah.
not going to go right down in a shame spiral
Yeah.
because maybe that's where they used to go. I think so many girls are terrified because in the past, when they have, felt some big emotions, maybe they've gone to cutting, maybe they've gone to a suicide attempt or suicidal thinking, and they just are like, but I can't. It's too big. It's too much. It's too painful. I can't handle it. But
Yeah,
it's
you
like
feel like you're gonna die. They think
yes,
I'm gonna die or I'm gonna do something. Yeah,
yes,
they think that it's gonna go on forever,
yes.
and
But the
it's
reason for that is because they haven't actually learned how to process through anything.
no.
They're still in the mindset of emotions are bad, right? And we can bring this back to childhood because if any kid was like spanked for bad behavior, or if they had parents that didn't know how to regulate their own emotions, or if they were alone with their emotions when they were feeling some big emotion, like all of that contributes to society on a whole. We don't know how to feel.
No, it's
That's a big,
crazy.
massive problem.
It is. It's interesting because even the other night, my daughter FaceTimed me from her dad's. We have 50-50, and she's like, I feel really weird. I feel really blah.
Mm,
And I said, that's okay. Sometimes we
mm,
feel like that. You just have to write it out, like it'll pass when it's ready to pass.
yeah.
Just feel that. And she's like, okay, you don't think there's anything wrong? And I'm like, no,
Oh,
you're a person. You're a person. You're going through puberty. You stayed up way too late the last couple of nights. You have school tomorrow. There's a lot of things, and you're just having your feelings. And she's like,
yeah.
okay, you know? It's like we feel alarmed if there's any kind of what we label as negative emotion. And it's just kind of like sometimes you just feel that way.
Yeah. What if there's no bad feelings? It's a feeling. Feelings and emotions are meant to be felt. So it's like if girls and young women, well, everybody really, if we just allow what's here, it's like, okay, I'm going to be with this. Like, I welcome you, sadness. I acknowledge you. I'm here with you, right? It's having a different relationship with our emotions. Like, just as if it's like a little kid trying to get our attention. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to be with you, sadness. I'm going to allow you to be felt in my body. It's
Yeah.
okay. But girls, young women, people in general, like all of it's like that's not how people are with their emotions. So now again, going back to self-harm, eating disorders, suicidal thinking, all these girls going into the psych wards because you had suicidal thinking or because you attempted to take your life. Can we just teach these girls how to feel? They don't just go to suicidal thinking overnight. There's
No, it's like a that's a
yes.
big missing piece too, is there's a process leading up to where somebody gets,
Yeah.
and it's like we're not visiting what that process was because we might discover a lot.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think but I agree with you in regards to self-worth, self-love, and being able to feel your emotions,
Mhm.
right? Withstand, tolerate discomfort.
Tolerate discomfort. It's okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tolerating discomfort, it's huge.
Mhm.
And I mean, so much would be cleared up just with those couple of things. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly,
But
sometimes when I'm on this podcast talking with people like you who are doing the work with people, I think, gosh, this must just sound so silly that it's this simple. And I'm not saying that everything is simplified, but it's like it actually is this fucking simple. Like if you get to the root of a couple of these core things, you could have way more control
yeah.
over your overall mental health. It is actually that simple.
It's not rocket science.
But it's just like we make it so complicated,
Make it so complicated.
and it's really actually so simple. I'm writing a guide on how to heal anxiety naturally, which I
I
know that in itself is very taboo.
yes.
And I'm not saying it, by the way, I keep putting a disclaimer. Everyday anxiety is not bad. Like we all have it, it's normal. But I'm talking
Yeah.
about the anxiety that plagues you and feels like it controls you. And I'm going through all the things I've done to self heal. And I'm like, this people are gonna think, like, what? It's this simple? And I'm like, no, it actually is
Yeah.
this simple. Like, and it's things that people were doing a long time ago. Not that I don't think the feelings, like that's always been a thing, but other things to take care of yourself, and we've just gotten away from it as a society,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. The mental health system was never designed to actually heal.
No, and I actually think that parents used to be so much more connected to their children.
Yes.
We're missing so much connection, and that's where a lot of these things that you're describing are falling through the cracks, and in a
Mhm.
lot of ways it's I mean, it's just the evolution of our society and moms going into the workforce and all these things. It's all this stuff just stacked
Right.
on itself that it's just, yeah. And then we think that doing the basic things like connection, playing with your kids, spending quality time, that it's like this huge Mount Everest,
Yeah.
like, but it's sad that it feels that way.
Yes. The whole thing, the connection piece is huge
It
too.
is.
The work that I do with girls and young women, it's a combination of group and private. And in those group sessions, it's really beautiful what I get to witness where girls, young women coming together to heal, coming together to support one another, coming together to cheer each other on. I mean, so many girls are feeling isolated, alone. They're struggling with their mental health. They don't feel like they have anyone to open up with or to talk about it. And even if they do, like if they're doing that with a therapist, it's still like human beings by nature, we like need human connection. We need to feel like we matter, not just with ourselves. Yes, with ourselves first and foremost, but also amongst other people. As somebody myself who struggled a lot in my life with loneliness and isolating myself and all of the things, this is really near and dear to my heart because so many girls and young women, it's like their trauma came from, right? If we track back the traumatic experiences or events happened with somebody else. And
Yes.
so, or the bullying is also traumatic, right? And so they can actually heal with other human beings. Like it's an amazing experience that they don't have to heal in isolation
That's
anymore.
incredible. Yeah. I would have given anything to have a friend that I felt like understood what I was experiencing. I had a lot
Yes.
of friends, but I
Yes.
just didn't feel like my friends really, I could talk to them about certain things.
Yes. It's the loneliness that is also bringing all of, not, I don't want to say all, but so many girls on the brink of I don't want to be here anymore.
Well, you're lonely, yet you have all these, supposed fake friends on,
Yes.
or friend, not so fake, I shouldn't say that, but friends on, all this. I'm listening to
They're
this
not
book.
having vulnerable conversations.
Right. It's not that deep connection. Like I'm listening to a couple of books as we're coming into my daughter's age of asking for herself
Yeah.
social media, and I'm really educating myself. And even I experienced this, not necessarily loneliness, but it's like I've got a lot of friends on social media who I've met, but there's only some of them, or the people in my life, the core people in my life, who were having deeply connected conversations, right?
Mhm.
Somebody liking my thing or being like, "You're amazing, girl." Like that's not truly making me feel connected, right?
Vulnerability is also a skill.
It is.
And I would say majority of these girls don't know how to be vulnerable.
They don't know how, or they tried a couple of times and like learned very quickly that it's not.
Yes.
My daughter, I'm watching her in this process because she's a very tender and she's very vulnerable. And part of that is because, I'm her mom, right? And I'm watching her shift her persona because she can't be vulnerable with the majority of her friends.
Mm.
And I'm watching her persona shift, not at home,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
when she's engaging with her friends, like I can hear her sometimes chit-chatting with them, and it's this harder persona.
Mm. Mm. Well, you talk about persona too, and it's a lot of parents don't know how bad their kids are struggling because
Right.
of the facade or I ask my clients, I'm like, do you feel like you have to wear a facade or like put on this fake smile and pretend that everything is okay? So many say yes, like they've lived their life in that way. And it's really, really sad because when we look at a girl who is hurting herself through self-harm, cutting, eating disorder, or suicidal thinking or attempts, it's like, for girls who attempt suicide, they'd rather go to such an extreme measure than actually saying, I'm really hurting, mom, or I need some help. Or maybe they've already done that. I don't know. Like, look, everybody is different, right?
Totally.
But for a girl, when a girl tries to take her life, it is that bad. It has gotten that bad for her. And there's so many pieces to this puzzle. But if we can focus on actually healing from like where this all started from, it's like, let's go to that pain. It's an open wound. And we can band aid it with medication and we can band aid it with coping strategies. But all that will be is just coping.
Yeah.
I am a big advocate for healing, not coping.
Yeah, 1000%. So I'm curious with teens specifically, because I have a soft spot in my heart for kids and teens because their environment, I mean, they don't choose it, right? What we do once we're 18, 19, that's a different story.
Yep.
But how do you work with them on healing at the root when they might still be in certain environments that are going to continuously challenge that? Do you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's bullying at school, maybe it's a emotionally distant or invalidating parent, maybe it's whatever it is. How
Right.
do you, because it's not like they can put boundaries in
Yeah.
place. I mean, they can do internal boundaries, but they can't say, "Hey, parent, we're going to not have these types of conversations anymore." You know what I mean? So how do you do?
Yeah, great question. What I teach my clients is the only person that you are in charge of is yourself. So
Right.
we are not in control of outside circumstances and what people do or say. Now, of course, if there's bullying, I'm not saying just like sit back and like let that continue. Go tell somebody, tell your parent, like there are measures to take to try to get that to stop. But at the same time, we are only so much in control of what other people say, or we're really not, right? But who we are control of is what is happening inside of us.
Yeah.
So if a bully is saying, you're stupid, you're fat, or you're this, or you're that, okay, so what's happening inside of me in this moment? What do I choose to believe about myself in this moment? I'm not saying that this is easy work. This is the real inner work. Or you have they have a horrible relationship with mom or dad and there's yelling in the house and it's triggering and bringing up trauma responses and all the things. It's like, again, hard stuff. And while they may not be in control of what mom or dad says, it's like, what is happening inside of me? That is what I do have full control over. And oftentimes what we see in my program is when the girls are healing. A byproduct of that is the relationship with mom and or dad changes
That's
because
awesome.
they're showing up in a different way. They're showing up as the higher version of themselves, if you will, right? They're loving themselves more. They're more compassionate with themselves more. So it opens up their heart to be more connection, more of feeling connected with mom or dad. So it doesn't happen all the time, but a lot of the time relationships can get closer because of it all starts with relationship with self. The world can be mean and cruel and nasty. There's bullies in school. I mean, there's adult bullies. I had one come after me, and it's like, what am I choosing to do with that?
Yeah.
It's like, you're going to come after me and say a whole bunch of lies. Am I going to let that disturb my own inner peace? It did for a little bit. I'm not going to lie,
Well,
because she
we're
kept coming
humans, right?
after me. What?
So we're humans,
I'm a human being. Yeah, it triggered me. And then it's like,
Sometimes you have to work through things and
yes. And
absolutely.
then it's like, I know who I am.
Yeah.
I know my worth. I know my value. I literally had a girl reach out, a 17-year-old girl who texted me today. I think she was at school, and she was like, these two people were talking behind my back, and I stuck up for myself. And she said, and I know my worth and I know my value. And she said, and they kept talking about me. And I said, you did what you needed to do. It's not about what they're saying to you. It's about you knowing your worth and your value. That's it. You have no control over if they're going to continue saying mean things about you, unless if it's escalated, of course, tell somebody to get it to stop. And you're in charge of you.
Yeah.
Your worth and your value. That's it.
I talk about this with my daughter all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. Is that you're not going to be able to answer this for me probably, but is that something that takes quite a bit for an adolescent girl to embody?
Yes. So
Okay.
here's the deal. So life, there's always going to be things that are happening, challenges, obstacles, trauma, pain, you name it. If we let every single thing disturb our peace, holy shit, that is going to be a very difficult life. And this is what so many of the girls and young women, people, are doing. Everything is disturbing my peace. Oh my God, I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm highly reactive. We're in like fight, flight, or freeze. And it's like, we need to, I'm not even saying like calm ourselves down, but it's called regulating the nervous system so that we can be a space where things happen and I don't blow a fuse, because all I can control is what is happening inside of me. The biggest thing that needs to, to answer your question, it's self-awareness. These girls, these young women cannot change what they are unwilling to see. So if they are very content and happy, sleepwalking through life, not having that awareness of there's something bigger going on here, or they don't want to learn where their thoughts are coming from and they just want to be highly reactive, then that's their choice. Yeah. But when I work with girls, I say to all of them, it's like, you get to choose the life that you want to live. Maybe you didn't believe that up until now, and today is a new day, and you get to choose what you want to believe about yourself. So part of doing this work is like, if we're raising our self-esteem and self-value, we're going to start to see things differently. But that is where like self-awareness comes in, of pausing, of taking a breath, asking myself like, how do I feel right now? What's present? What emotion is here? Can I practice some self-love? Can I practice self-compassion in this moment? Mm-hmm. That's the work. But no girl's going to be able to do that if she doesn't know how to be self-aware. Yeah. So that comes with
first, obviously.
I'm sorry.
It's the commitment to that first.
Yeah, commitment to self. Because these girls have what's the word? They're in the trenches of their mental health challenges, and they have been for so long that they've created an identity around suffering. And this identity around suffering is like a warm, fuzzy blanket. It doesn't feel good, but it's all they know because they've been living in that place for God knows how long. Some of these girls, when they come to me, they've been struggling for 10 years, 5 years, 4 years, 6 years, like over a decade. It's like, that is a long time. And so in that time frame, the longer that these parents are going through the mental health system and not getting anywhere, and their daughters are getting worse, not getting any better, their daughter is using that time to reaffirm her diagnosis, her mental illness or chemical imbalance, which I don't think it's any of those things, but that's what they say to themselves, right? And then it's like, so they reaffirm that suffering and they say to themselves, like, well, this is who I am. I'm just a depressed person. I'm just an anxious person. I'm always going to be suicidal, or I'm never going to love myself. No, it's like, but they've never learned that actually things can change. And they've never been shown that things can change. Again, because let's take this back to the mental health system. That's not helping them. In many ways, it's hurting them. So to actually believe things can change, we got to do things differently. The same status quo isn't working. Look at how many girls are suffering, miserable. These parents are in and out of psych wards and residentials and medications galore, which the pharmaceutical companies are thrilled about. But what is happening to the girls?
And I mean, we haven't even talked about what medications do to exacerbate the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you had a magic wand
Mm-hmm.
and and you could change how we educate parents about mental health, what would that look like? That's such a loaded question, but what would that look like for you?
Healing pain in the presence of self-love.
So how would you translate that though to like to parents understanding that that's really the first step?
Mm-hmm. How would I get them to understand that?
Yeah, like I just sometimes I think about, I mean, I think about all this stuff all the time. And I think, okay, the medical system and the mental health system message is the strongest message out there. Like they
Yeah.
get commercial time.
Oh, yeah.
So if we were to put out a message, like practitioners like you and I, and, people who are on this same mission,
Mm-hmm.
of getting to the root holistic as possible, right? And that can be many different things, but how would we get that message? Like what would we be saying? We
Yeah.
got a commercial or we got a billboard, like what would we be saying?
I love this
Self-love, when
question.
you just say it, most
No, I hear you. I hear
self-love,
I
sure.
hear you. Here's what needs to change. Parents' beliefs have to change first because, well, when it comes to the girls and young women I'm working with, they're coming through like their parents. It's the parents who find me, the parents who set up a call, the parents who enroll their daughters in my program.
Right.
It's coming through the parents. So if parents actually see that the mental health system isn't working for their daughter, and there are some parents that don't even want to go through the whole mental health system. Most parents, I will say majority of parents who come to me have been through the mental health system because that's why what I do is appealing. But
Right.
there are, occasionally there are a few parents here or there that have seen enough about like with other girls and young women and what they're struggling with, or like, I'm not doing that to my daughter. So there needs to be a change in beliefs. It starts there, and it starts with the parents' beliefs about the mental health system, about trauma, having an understanding of what trauma is. It's not just what happens to us. It's like what happens inside of us and where we're alone with that trauma. And if anybody wants to look up, Dr. Gabor Mate, world-renowned trauma expert, he talks about this. So, because I've had parents come to me all the time and like, well, I've been with my daughter since birth. There's been no trauma there. Yes, there has. And then there's generational trauma. There's generational trauma on top of all of
Yeah.
that, which
Yeah.
maybe we'll save that for another day.
People don't, the word trauma for most people is like a 4-letter word. It's like a bad, like they're just like, that doesn't apply to me. I had a great, I've given them a great childhood, or it's really understanding what that means. And even if you are somebody who maybe created some trauma for your child, like you're not
Yeah,
a person, like sometimes we do things that we don't even, not on purpose, that we don't realize is hurtful. We don't know that,
absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
us saying, oh, you're fine, or, these different things, we don't know. We're doing the best that we can. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's another piece. Yeah, I agree. Parents being really changing their point of view and being educated, it's really hard because the majority of the messaging is very misleading though.
100%.
And
Yes.
so it takes somebody with some gumption to go
Yes.
search for something else.
Yes. And to start questioning, because okay, so if a doctor says, Well, here's the thing that also is so hard and so difficult. Like when a girl is struggling and let's say she's already on medication, so she goes back to the psychiatrist or the doctor, and what do they typically do? They're going to up the dosage or change medications to a different medication. Again, we're not looking at the origin of where this hurt, where this trauma came from. So if all we're doing is medication stacking and we're not actually trying to heal from the root, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, it's really hard because I mean, people like you and I, we're literally questioning what's considered the ultimate authority.
Yeah,
And I've been called so many things just from,
me
I
too.
haven't even fully ripped the band-aid off on all the things that I want to say.
Mhm.
And I'm being called all sorts of stuff, which I don't care. But some parent who's just, they're not on this crusade that we're on. And so I'm prepared for that, right? But
Yes,
most parents, as soon as they question a doctor, they're being treated like a piece of shit. How dare you question me? Not all doctors are like this, you guys, but a lot of them are. Okay. And it's kind of like, I'm telling you
yes.
what the solution is.
Oh my God. Yes.
It's so hard. I used to be really angry towards parents, to be really honest with you, and especially like my mom.
Mhm,
But I also am like, what else would she have done? What else would she have
mhm.
done? She didn't, because she and I can't have this kind of conversation, right? So I'm just like, she took me to doctors because that's what she thought
Right.
she was supposed to do. And she trusted them as the authority that they were going to do the best for us.
Yes. I have a Facebook group for parents
That's awesome.
and I see so many parent conversations in there and it's all about, well, have you tried this medication and da 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 da. And I'm coming, it's my group. So I'm speaking, like sharing like what I do and what these girls need. There's so many parents that just don't want to hear it. There will be parents who turn this podcast episode off in 2 minutes because it's triggering something inside of them because we're actually speaking truth here and people don't want to hear it. There are some people that are waking up,
Yeah.
but some people don't want to wake up to what really is happening here.
Well, this is the thing about that is because I've done posts where there are people who say, I feel like you're shaming me as a parent. And then other parents who are like, thank you for sharing. I
Yes.
love the information. And it's like
Yes.
something I learned as a therapist that changed again how I lived my life was this idea that it's not like the things that have happened to you are not your fault.
Mhm.
But you're the only one responsible for fixing it, changing it, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
And this idea of radical responsibility.
Oh,
It's
I
like,
used that word in my front. Yes, I
oh,
used that word.
love it. This is all deep. Not that you need to label
Oh,
what you
I
do,
didn't
but
know that
we
word
do a
came.
lot
Oh,
of
yeah, I
DBT,
use
like
that word.
strategies, or like it's very similar. And this idea of radical response, it's like, okay, whether you just didn't know and you're a parent, you just didn't know, you've said things, you've been just working from your programming, like nobody's mad at you for that. But once you realize it, then you now know. It's like the red pill or the blue pill, whatever,
You know now. What are
you
you going to do with this information?
right, and instead, so it's, and I get it. Some people do shame and some people do, put things out there in a way that is really attacking different groups of people, but it's kind of like if you already know inside that maybe what you're doing isn't the best approach. You don't know what else to do, but you get to decide, do you want to take responsibility for yourself and try to find something else?
Mhm.
Or are you going to take responsibility for never trying to find something else, right?
Yes.
And so that's really where the place that I advocate from is like, I get it. You're not going to understand everything. It's not like this stuff is easily passed out to you. When it's not like at the hospital, they're like, here's a
Yeah.
pamphlet on validation and radical responsibility and emotion
Yeah.
regulation, right? But it's like once you start to realize, like, okay, am I contributing potentially? Or I did take them to get medication, but that's not seeming to work. Like, it's okay to take responsibility. It doesn't make you a piece of shit. Like, you did the best you
Exactly.
could. And it's this whole like, I don't want to take the blame. And it's kind of like, well, it's not blame, it's responsibility. Even if you
Yeah.
make choices from a place of ignorance or not
Yes.
knowing,
Yes.
it's a just, but we need to figure out how to move forward. And until you take responsibility, nobody can move forward with anything.
Well said. Yes.
It's just like I've made mistakes with my daughter, and in the moment, like I felt like I didn't until after I was like, oh man, that was not the best choice.
Mhm.
And I could either shove it under, right? or I could take responsibility and apologize and have the conversation or get her what she needed or whatever it is. It's like, it's painful.
Mhm.
I don't know what is going on. Sorry. Got a
It's okay.
call. It's painful, but it's not as scary. This goes back
Yeah.
to tolerating discomfort though. Like this goes back to how is your child, your teen going to be able to tolerate discomfort if you can't tolerate discomfort?
Amen.
It's I lived in a home where discomfort was not tolerated
Yes.
whatsoever. Negative, what we consider negative emotion was not. And so it was really hard for me to connect with my mom because it was always shoving under the rug, right? And to this day, we really haven't talked about it. And, I've tried, but it doesn't work. And so
Mhm.
for me, I'm like, I need to embrace discomfort with my daughter. Like, there's going to be things that she says to me that's going to feel like a punch in my gut because I made a mistake. But
Yeah.
I need to embrace that discomfort and
Mhm.
have some humility and
Yeah.
not also shame myself. Like, I'm a human being,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And I think this is such a missing piece for parents, like the support around this and the
Yes.
understanding that it's okay to be doing the best you can, but it's okay to also do better. Like,
Yes.
there's nothing, doing better doesn't mean you're a piece of shit. Like, oh, if I know I need to do better, that means that I was doing horrible and I'm a piece of crap. Like, how did we get here where we think,
Yeah. It's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting to get different results when we haven't been getting the results doing the same thing. Or I might have butchered that, but right. It's
no,
like,
totally.
but a lot of parents are like, okay, let me try another therapist. Let me try another. So we're like hopping from therapist to therapist, psych ward to psych ward. At what point are we waking up and saying, this just doesn't work? Like the therapy model is ineffective. It's not working. Nothing's happening in a psych ward there. It's like, what do we do differently? And this is why I am so outspoken and I blast so much out there. I want people to find me from Australia and Canada, which people
Yeah.
do everywhere in the United States, because it's like, this is universal and girls don't feel empowered going through the mental health system. And that is sad. And this is what I teach with my girls. It's like, you can be empowered, but it's a choice. Do you want empowerment or do you want victimhood? Pick one. But in order
Really
to pick
good that you,
empowerment, it's like I gotta look at things different. Why is this happening to me, or why is this happening for me? Right? We have to start bringing in meaning to life, because I feel like girls are searching for that, even if they will never say that. They
yeah.
want to know, how does this all make sense? Where do I fit in? What's the bigger picture?
Oh,
Where's my
that's what I
meaning? What's my
wanted to know
purpose?
so badly. Like, why am I here?
Yes, I've had 11-year-olds who can like relate to these conversation topics of like, why am I here? What's the bigger, all of it.
Yeah.
And so they're
And
craving
girls
deeper meaning.
specifically are deep feelers and thinkers
Yes.
by nature, whether we learn to suppress that or not. But even my daughter's that way. She definitely is trying to figure out, like, what am I doing here? What's the purpose of life? you know? And
Yeah.
I remember feeling like that, but then feeling like my environment didn't really support me actually having self meaning or self worth, right?
Mhm.
Because my environment always told me something different. Now, maybe if I had met somebody like you way earlier on, I would be at a different place even now, right?
Yeah.
And I learned these things through a lot way later in life. And so I think that the script that we run as a society, and then it's just perpetuated by the mental health system. And I think you and I were like, oh, we know there's other things, but there's still so many people who think that the mental health system is the only thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's really upsetting for me. Like, I'm just like, how, yes, we can educate on social media. And I think that that's helping tremendously, but it's like, we've got to get the word out even
Oh, absolutely.
faster.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when the healing and self-love and everything that we've talked about is not there, there will be almost like a jumping from one symptom to another. Symptom, not root cause, right? So the symptom, okay, depression, anxiety, okay, and then that's going on for a while. So now we got eating disorder, okay, or now we have self-harm, or now we have suicidal thinking, or maybe there's substance abuse, or it snowballs. And so I have a lot of parents who come to me and it's not just, oh, my daughter is depressed. No, my daughter is depressed. She has an eating disorder. She's cutting and she's suicidal. Like, that doesn't scare me off because I've worked with so many girls who are struggling with so many different things. But I'm just saying, when you don't get underneath the surface of the root issue, there is a snowball effect, and you have one mental health challenge becomes 5.
Absolutely.
But we
Absolutely.
got to take it back to where this all began.
So how long is your program typically? How long is somebody
Yeah,
in
so
program?
it's 3 months. So
Okay,
it's
cool.
12 weeks focusing on everything that we've talked about, but really like empowerment, self-love, processing through feelings and emotions in a healthy way, and healing that past pain and trauma.
I love it.
Thank you.
And I know you have a ton of, I mean, I see your posts every day, and there's like tons of testimonies of girls and young women who are seeing such a tremendous impact in the work you guys are doing together.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. I mean, like, look, I love what I do. I'm living my meaning and my purpose. Being able to have helped over 1,000 teen girls and young women heal their mental health is like, it's incredible. And I feel like that's just like the tip of the iceberg for me. Like,
Mhm.
I want more girls and more young women to know what they are capable of, to know that they can heal, that they can reclaim their lives, that they are not subjected to a mental health diagnosis, or they are not mentally ill, or they are not chemically imbalanced. Like, you are so much more than that. So let's veer away from these labels and let's actually reclaim who you really are.
I love that. I want to just go back to the mental health diagnosis for a second.
Mhm.
Can you share how that affects them?
Mhm. Yeah. So a doctor typically,
Been for adolescent girls.
yeah, yeah. I and it takes a parent to start questioning that. Like, is this actually true? Is this real? So typically, like a doctor what sees a girl for 10-15 minutes. It's a diagnosis, because the diagnosis will then get the insurance company, then they can go get the medication, and insurance can bill for that. So pharma billions of dollars, right? So they're making money off of how many girls are medicated, basically.
I remember it as like it was yesterday, sitting in that office and him
Yeah.
saying that I have bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
I'm curious though, how you have observed, or maybe even some young ladies have shared, like how that makes them feel to have this label. And I know you've already said that it's almost like, oh,
So yeah, great question. So they internalize that. And
yes,
here's where this gets dangerous. When they're given the label of you're mentally ill, then they create meaning, story, narrative, and that is the thing that keeps them hostage to whatever it is that they're struggling with.
yes,
You guys, parents listening to this, listen up, because your daughter creates an identity around suffering or mental illness or depression or anxiety. That becomes who she is moving forward in life.
yes.
You don't want your daughter to stay stuck to her suffering. She's got to remove the labels. And unfortunately, these labels are just being handed out left and right. You're depressed, or you got clinical depression, or you're anxious, or whatever. And what's not being talked about enough, as we've kind of already talked about here, is like, but you can heal. You're
Yeah.
not a label. You're not a diagnosis. So if you're not that, then who are you?
Yeah, that is real. I think that's really important, is that everything is just, I mean, this is what I've experienced is, well, I have depression, so that's why I do this. Well, I have bipolar disorder, so that's why I do this and this. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
Talk
not
about
why you do this and this. And you
yeah,
just
talk about
accept it at face value.
disempowerment.
It's kind of like, well, that's just what I do, because
Yeah.
I have borderline personality disorder, so that's just what I do. And I'm like,
It's the reason that they tell themselves that they can't change and transform and heal.
yes, it's
They say
very
to them,
disempowering.
they will never say it maybe out loud, but deep inside their subconscious, they believe that they are the mental illness. So if they are the
Yes.
mental illness, nothing's ever going to work for them. Nothing's ever going to help them. They've built an identity around suffering.
Yeah, and I mean, this goes into adulthood too, because I have
Yes.
adults DM me and say stuff where it's like, oh, well, I have this diagnosis, so that's why this and this. And I'm just like, oh man, they really think that that's it for them.
I
Right?
once had, yes. Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I remember this like it was yesterday. I had like a young woman, I think she was like 20. She was in a group coaching session, and she said, I'm feeling confused. My therapist says I have a chemical imbalance. You're saying that I don't know what to believe. And I said, how does believing you have a chemical imbalance helping you in life right now? And she had this like 10-15 seconds of like complete silence. And she thought about it and she was like, it's not. Yeah, you're right,
So
it's not.
good.
Because she was very up and down with doing like the work because she's always going back to
Yeah.
this identity of, but I got a chemical imbalance, right? And a lot of people are getting a lot of love and sympathy. And there's some things that they're getting from staying stuck in that label or diagnosis, whether they are aware of it or it's subconscious. But like a lot of girls are just, they feel like they're a victim. They're a victim to this and they don't know how to veer away from it.
And the other piece to that is this using the word heal. That is just, oh my gosh. You're
Woo!
saying that you could, I mean, this just pisses people off. Like,
Dare I say that, right?
and it's like, I mean, people just don't believe that they can heal
I had a
mental
mother.
health and physical health issues.
Yeah. I have a mother reach out to me just yesterday. I've talked to her before. She has a 12-year-old who's cutting, and she was asking me, she's like, so you're saying that your program can cure depression and self-harm? And I said, no. So it's up to every individual. So I always say this, it's like, the work that I do is the vehicle. It's the vehicle, but your daughter is the one that's driving the vehicle. So wherever she's going to go with this, it's up to your daughter. So if your daughter like does the work, she's coachable, she puts in the effort, she practices what she's learning, then yes, she can heal from depression. She can stop cutting and never cut for the rest of her life. But it's like the work that I do is proven. Like it works.
Yeah.
But a lot of girls, it's like the very first thing that I tell them when they start working with me is, you know, this even before coming to work with me, it's like, it's on you. Want to change your life? It's going to start with you.
Yeah.
Then we got to talk about all this resistance to change that's going to come up to the surface and the self-sabotage and you getting in your own way because you built a whole life around your suffering, la, 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 la. So we got to address that too, because that's a big part of it. But it's like, it starts with every individual. So whether it's like my program or something else, it's not the program or it's like, no, it's how your daughter is also going to show up. But yes, the program or the vehicle has to be effective. It has to work.
Right. Right. I think we need to start. That's another piece is that just believing that people can heal, believing that
Oh,
certain things are not
oh.
the end all be all.
Can we pause on I love what you just said. Yes, because a lot of girls come into my program and we got to go straight to, what are your beliefs? What are your beliefs about your worth and your value? What are your beliefs about your ability to heal? Oh, I can't heal. We're going to start there because if you believe that you can't heal, you can do all the work in the world, you know, all the inner work, all of it. But it's going to come back to your limiting belief of you can't heal. So you can't heal. It's going to keep you stuck to depression, anxiety. Woe is me. Life is hard. It's never going to get any better.
Well, it's the same. So I had blood work done a couple months ago, and my thyroid, there's some stuff there, right, that needs to be addressed. And the doctor's like, oh, what, you might have Hashimoto's, you might have this, all this stuff, right? And so I said, okay, I'd like to do X, Y, and Z, and then and it doesn't mean that I would never go on a medication, but I know that I can heal my thyroid. I don't know 100% how. I'm in the process of figuring it out, but I know I can. And that seems kind of weird to him, although he is much more holistically minded and alternative medicine minded.
Yeah.
So he's like working with me. But if I didn't believe that I could heal my thyroid, I wouldn't even be trying these things and learning and understanding the thyroid and understanding all of what contributes to my thyroid and THFR and like all this stuff that I'm learning. I wouldn't even try. I wouldn't even try if I was just like, sure, give me a thyroid medication. Like, sounds good. Guess just
Yeah.
add that on to my whatever. And
Yeah.
that's really the basis of the belief that people can heal their mental health is not that anybody's saying like, oh, it's the snap of the fingers and people. No, it takes work. But if you don't even believe it, you're not going to have an open orientation to doing the deep
Yeah.
work at all.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I just think that that's a huge missing piece as well is that, you know, parents don't think that their kids can heal. People don't think that they can heal.
Yes. Society on a whole needs to change entirely about how we look at life, how we look at our own innate ability to heal. It's like, yes, we can heal our mental health. No, we are not a victim to genes, DNA. We're not. Hereditary, yeah, people will say, oh, but it runs in the family. Okay, so you're going to be depressed forever because it runs in the family?
Right. That's yeah. Okay, so if there's a parent listening in, what's your closing thoughts around what you want them to know um about their child and their child's
Your
mental health?
your daughter is more in control of her mental health than she's ever been led to believe. I had one girl, this is like years ago, but she was like one of my favorites. Her name, well, anyways, I could say her name. Ella, 14 years old. And she came to me like cutting, suicidal, so much self-loathing. She was such a cutie. She was such a sweet girl and so much self-loathing. The mother used to sleep by her, like on the floor of her daughter, like we're in the bedroom because she was so scared that her daughter was going to kill herself. She was
Mhm.
terrified. And, they had tried all the things and nothing was working. And so I started working with her as a 14-year-old, and I just saw this like beautiful metamorphosis happen with this girl. But there were ups and downs. Like I remember one night she messaged me and she was having suicidal thoughts, and I said, "Get on the phone with me. Like I'm going to talk to you." But she was very open and honest with the mother. They had a good relationship, even though she was struggling so much. The mother was very much there for her. And I remember like being on the phone with her, and she was having all these suicidal thoughts. And I said, "You are not these thoughts. Let's go back to like where these thoughts are coming from. This is your ego. This is to keep you in your suffering, right? You are so much more than this. Come back into your heart space. You are loved. You are worthy. You are enough." But it's these girls need to hear this over and over and over. Not just hear this, but it's like, this is the work, right?
Yeah, they
And
need to embody it. And that's a process to get to embodiment for anybody. It doesn't matter.
yes,
And being an adolescent, that in itself has its own challenges with those types of things.
absolutely. I have this beautiful testimonial where she like came on camera and she was like, "I love myself now. Like I'm not depressed. I'm not wanting to kill myself. I'm not cutting anymore." And it's like, and she even said the same thing. We are more in control of our mental health than we've ever been led to believe. So parents can believe whatever they want, but at the end of the day, how are your beliefs helping your daughter? Are your beliefs helping your daughter get better, or are they not? As much of as the fact that my program is designed for teen girls and young women who are struggling with their mental health, it's like, but it also comes back to the parent, right? What are your beliefs about mental health? What do you believe that your daughter is capable of? Because if you don't think your daughter is capable of actually healing, well, then they probably won't even reach out to me to begin with,
Yeah.
right? Because this is different. This is not the mental health system. This is something entirely different.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so all of your links are going to be in the show notes.
Amazing. Thank you.
Where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram at breannakulwin.com at BreannaKulwin. You can check out my website, breannakulwin.com. I have a brand new training video. It's only like 20 minutes and it kind of outlines my approach. And I'm coming out with a digital, hold on. So I have my 12-week coaching program called Awakened Heart. And I'm coming out with a digital course in the next couple of days, actually. Well, it should be out by the time this airs. A digital course called Unshakable Confidence.
That's awesome. And I'm assuming that's going to be for the girls.
Yeah, everything is for the girls and young women.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
So everything's going to be linked in the show notes, you guys, including her Instagram. Go check her out. She puts out incredible content and she's doing incredible work. And I'm just so excited that you were here and shared all of this with me today. This has been an excellent, amazing, powerful conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea, for having me here.
Absolutely.
When I found out about you, I was like, you are a powerhouse in what you're talking about. And you don't hold back. I like people like that because we can just get to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're my kind of people too. I love it. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks.